Bag, I want the bag. Work my way from a garden to a track. Flip it from a track to a plot full of acres. Do it for the farmers and producers and the makers. What we even here for? Occasionally I ask it. I know it's more than struggling, anticipating the casket. Reap what we sow, trying to fill up my basket. Life's a plantation, I self-law and master. Over the plot, I've been granted on this planet. Now it's slanted, cause the chosen been supplanted. But if you overstand it, it was spoken. Fractured, but we ain't broken. Even though some would rather play the role of token, we growing. Black through the essence of our presence. We carry the blood of gods, we carry the mind of peasants. Rich black gardens, future look more like Eden. Multiply seeds like the seed banks in Sweden. Rep my planners on plan according to season. B1 code, switching it up is treason. Black power, family what we eat. Either we get fed or we feed. B1AG.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips to balance in favor of fair use. Welcome Black, welcome Black, welcome Black. This is B1AG. I'm John Henry Harris, and we also have Farmer Brown, the MC. Here at B1AG, we focus on Black agriculture as it pertains to agricultural production, education, marketing, health, food, nutrition, and economics, all for the Black family and the Black community. What's happening? What's up? The week is going, it started, and I hope that every day you find yourself growing as each day passes. I hope you find yourself growing in love, abundance, and just overall happiness. You know, I speak of this grand harvest, and that's what I look forward to, is this grand harvest. You know, with all of us sitting down at the table with an equitable chance to eat. Okay, today's story, talking about this labor shortages. Now, the labor shortages, they're across all the industries. However, in the world of agriculture, the labor shortages have been there for a while. And that's because a lot of Americans do not see agriculture as a viable industry to get into, or they just are not aware of the opportunities available in agriculture. However, we know everybody's got to eat and that work has to be done. So that's what we're going to focus today and dive deep into the subject of dirty work. Migrant workers are cashing in on farm labor. Farmer Brown, let's get started, man. You know, is this dirty work? Is it time for Americans, especially the B1 family, to look differently at farm labor?
First, I just like to say peace to the B1 fam. Hope everybody's doing well. We're going to be real codified today. We want to be very specific with numbers. This ain't about throwing shade on any other groups. You know, sometimes when you're in the process of being better, you're not going to get on the court with somebody who's weaker. You want to get on the court with somebody who can shoot just as good as you, run just as fast, and that makes you better. And so today, I think we should have a conversation and a case study around this concept of migrant workers. And so, you know, when we speak of what we're speaking about, I don't speak throwing any shade. At the end of the day, 75% of the food that all North America eats, 390 million North Americans, 44 million FBA melanated Americans, comes from migrant workers, meaning 75 out of every 100 bites of food that we consume is grown by hands that aren't of this soil. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying that being disparaging of any group that's willing to get out there and do the work, because what do we know? 7.6 billion people on the planet have to eat, and somebody has to produce that food. Here at B1AG, you know, we like to frame our conversation about how does this affect the B1 community? How does this affect Black farmers? How does this affect our Black youth? How does this affect our the Black community as a whole, the melanated community as a whole, when we think about 2030, 2040, 2050? We see that the factions right now who we say are in charge, or many of us agree or vote for that are in charge, have 30-year, 40-year, 50-year plans. So the conversation we're having today is more so framed around Secretary Vilsack. This week was in northern New York, talking about there's a severe labor shortage in agriculture. We know that agriculture is obviously necessary to feed a country. When we think about the politics around the border, many people have different, build the wall, don't build the wall. Oh, everybody has rights, DACA. These are very touchy issues because these are real human beings we're talking about. But as we try to frame it around the B1 community, where are we eating within this? There was an article that came out of New American Economy, and it's called Power of the Purse. Data shows that Hispanic Americans earned more than $1 trillion and paid more than $250 billion in taxes in 2017 alone. Beyond that, they continue to fill critical workforce gaps in labor, short industries such as agriculture, construction, and healthcare. They say money talks, BS walks. When we think about, we have a government that will give all sorts of help, assistance to every group but the melanated Aboriginal people of this land. At some point, we got to do some codified thinking of, okay, why is this dynamic happening? When you look at a lot of where many of us work, not all, but many of us are working within urban settings. At this moment in time, right now, us in the melanated community have the highest unemployment of every group. Literally, we have people that, and I hate using the word legal or illegal, but, as far as the law of the land, we have people that are classified as illegal that have higher employment than the Aboriginal inhabitants of this land. We need to get into this discussion. You're on mute.
We have a video I'd like to show you talking about the H-2A workers, which are basically the non-American migrant workers, and basically their importance to the agriculture industry.
Washington State is looking at raising the costs of the H-2A program with a unique state-only fee, which would hurt farmers and workers. It already costs a lot to hire H-2A workers, an average of $1,500 per worker to hire through the temporary worker visa program. In comparison, the average family of four spent $850 a month on groceries in 2017. After these workers are hired, employers have the additional costs of providing transportation, housing, providing food or facilities for meal preparation during the workday, and wages for their employees. Washington and Oregon pay the highest wages for H-2A workers in the country, $15.83 an hour minimum, and Washington is among the top 5 states for H-2A worker recruitment. The H-2A program is the last resort for farmers who have advertised for local employees for a minimum of 60 days and must give hiring preference to local workers. And any farm employing an H-2A worker must have the same starting salary for all its employees, local and temporary. So, with all those obstacles, why do farmers keep hiring H-2A workers? Because they are the backbone of food production in our state, and farmers need to fill the employment void. Farm work is difficult, and without H-2A workers, our food security would be at risk because there would be fewer people to do the hard job of growing and harvesting our food. Making the H-2A program more costly for our farmers makes farm workers vulnerable to unemployment and has the potential to make food more expensive by putting local farmers out of business and forcing more importation of food from outside sources. Farm employers struggle under the burden of the current costs of the H-2A program to help ensure Washingtonians have an abundant, fresh local food supply. Raising these costs in Washington state undermines our farmers and our food supply. Follow state ag policy at washingtonpolicy.org.
Now let's put this in perspective. Like I said, this isn't about shading anybody. We think about the politics, depending on which side of the aisle. Many people think, okay, y'all are letting these people come across the border to erase another group as a voter base. And you can see the value in that when you're talking strictly numbers. Okay, these melanated people starting to wake up, getting belligerent. They're not going to go for my little scams no more. So let me bring in another voter base. Okay, you can't eat a ballot. You can't eat a ballot, but you can eat food. And so my mind, my conspiratorial mind is like, okay, has this same thing happened when it comes to our food security? Because when we think about the melanated community, right now we know 1.4% of all agricultural primary operators, these are the actual owners, the farmers that own their land, only 1.4% are melanated. When we talk about this 30, 40-year plan, this theoretical 30, 40-year plan, how are we positioning ourselves where we're not dependent on other groups for our food? I may come across like I'm sounding negative, but family, this is one of the hugest opportunities ever. We see, and I can tell you right now, there are literally 1.5 to 2 million agricultural positions every year that go on field. 1.5 to 2 million agricultural positions. We're not in, I'll tell you, out in the field, you sweat. It is a job, but out on the block with nothing to do, it's a job as well. And you're in danger of other forces coming picking with you, so to speak. So saying that to say, if we're thinking this 30, 40 years out, getting your hands in the mud on one of these farm jobs is a great introduction to food production. Saying that to say, okay, yeah, the narrative of, man, I'm a black man, I need a job. I'm gonna go out here and work on this white man's farm for $15 an hour, however much the minimum wage is. Optically, that could kind of mess with you in the head. But when you're thinking long term, are there black farmers? Because black farmers, guess what? They need labor as well. I think sometimes we get confused with this primary operator number. There are a lot more melanated farmers than this 1.4%. That 1.4% is melanated farmers who own their property. There are a lot of producers that are leasing their property. And a lot of times, like I said, we can kind of skew these numbers. But either way, whatever operation you have, if you have more than a few acres, you're going to need some labor. You're going to need some help. We see a lot of things changing right now. There's a lot of workplaces that are now talking about, well, unless you get, some experimental medical intervention, you might not be able to come to this office building and work. You might not be able to come to this this brick and mortar and work. Learn the game. We don't have to play it no more. Absolutely. And you learn it by getting in the field. Right now, the average family across the board in North America is 3 generations separated from a farm. At some point in time, all of our ancestors had to produce food or had some sort of role within the food production and distribution system. I guess, thankfully, we have modern innovations. We had cars, we had fast food, we had supermarkets, we had stores. We now got DoorDash, we got Amazon. So we got all of these new innovations to make that process of getting what it is we want to eat easier. But when we look at it economically, when we look at the overall state of the melanated family, not just in North America, but across the diaspora, we've become more and more dependent. I can have the greatest job in the world. I can have the whole bag. But if there is another group, another entity that can say, no, I just don't want you to eat. I don't care how much money you have. What position does that person with the bag have to counter that? So saying that to say, when we're thinking about a decade-long strategy of how to re-enter ourselves in agriculture, just filling some of these 1.5 to 2 million jobs that we know the country needs. I'm talking about it's an issue. I know a couple melanated farmers up here in Kentucky, and they take it very personal. Question was asked to him, hey, you ever had any brothers come out and work on your farm? And I mean, he was triggered. He's like, man, every time I try to hire our own, they don't come out, they don't show up. And so I have to work with H-2A workers. And so this is directly from a melanated man who wants to hire his own. So saying that to say there isn't no one single bullet to fix this, more so than, okay, this is why here at B1AG, how do we make this a part of our culture? We didn't get to this dependent state overnight, and realistically, we're not going to fix it overnight. But the day that we start seeing our place within this food production circle as important, the day that, hey, we got these 15-year-olds, these teenagers who they're not going to have the same jobs you and I had when we were growing up. Are there some local farms that's going to need some extra hands? We see some of the issues they're having up in Washington right now is, hey, you know, this H-2A program is getting costly. We know those summer jobs. We know these youth. We know younger adults got a lot more energy to exert. So is that a perfect onboarding opportunity to get them to understand on a rudimentary level, hey, this is what it means to produce food. You're going to come out here for a year or two. You're going to sweat. You're going to build some fences. You're going to get a couple of cuts on your hand. You might get stung by a bee or two. But at the end of the day, after your 2 years, and I'm being very specific now, most agricultural positions that pay well, you got to have at least 2 years experience, like on the farm experience. And so if we can somehow frame this to where, okay, you just being out there on this farm sweating, this isn't the end all be all. This is you understanding on an intrinsic level, this is what it takes to produce this product. We know our ancestors had to do that for 400 years under some shady dealings. But through that, they created innovations that we now see being incorporated in agriculture today that become multi-billion-dollar industries. Your John Deere's, your Husqvarna's. There's a lot of melanated ancestors who, okay, I feel what this heat feels like out here in this field working. I feel with my fingers aching, my back kind of broken out here working. I feel what this feels like. So let me come up with a mechanism, a technology. Not a computer, but a technology, an appendage of your arm to make this work easier. We're in a day and age now where we can patent these ideas. And so our whole point here is, how do we get this conversation back around our personal dinner tables? They're talking about transportation is an issue. I'm sure up in Washington, man, you got to send buses all the way down to the Mexican border to get workers. That is very costly. Now, what if within our neighborhoods, we got local farmers, the black farmers who already exist? Like I said, we're keeping this around the B1 family. We have a few dozen workers every year that, you know, and this isn't volunteer, this is paid work. This goes back to, as a community, can we make it rain on some of these farms? How do I make it rain on this farm? Okay, I know you're going to need some labor. Boom, you know, there's a budget, there's a pool where you can have at least 5 willing hands that are going to come out to your farm and learn. Not just learn, messing things up, but you're going to teach them how to produce. You're going to teach them how these farms operate. And so as you're aging out, we have a whole new replacement layer coming in. Like I said, I'm not being utopian thinking that this is going to happen overnight, but the sooner we have these conversations on a grassroots level, the sooner we can take action. Like this said, and I don't want to talk your head off, $1 trillion a year. The Mexicans alone, Hispanics alone, are bringing in $1 trillion, and they're contributing $250 billion through taxes. I imagine they have a lot of voice, and when we see a lot of the accommodations and legislation passed for other groups, it's because they're bringing something to the pot. As melanated Americans, and, you know, like I said, I don't disparage anybody that protests, that fights for social justice, but okay, we're in an agricultural community where everybody's taking hits right now. And so do you think they're up in D.C. or any of these Department of Agriculture sitting thinking about, oh, these black farmers are mad? Somebody's going to ask, well, how much money did they bring in for taxes? You know, how much money is being generated because of what they're doing? Or are they just asking me for something that I ain't got? I got it, but to give it to them, I got to take more from them. Do you see these games?
Now, do we have like other like apprenticeship programs and things like that available for our people to take advantage of to get into agriculture? Because, you know, like a lot of, like, say if you want to be a plumber or an electrician, you know, you have to be an apprentice. You have to go through an apprenticeship first. You know, is there an active program like that for our people to get into agriculture?
Technically, you hear that word HBCU, historically black colleges and university. When you hear that word land grant, technically, these were the institutions designed in the late 1800s, 1890s to be specific to teach those skills. We're at a point in time where I think college is great if you can afford it, and if that's the route that works for you. But the concept of going to college is you're going to sit in a space, you're going to have professionals, specialists teach you a specific trade, a specific niche. We also know there are trade schools. And so for you to bring that up, it means it's something to be created. What I can tell you from a professional end, there is a lot more interest in this agricultural training field, but because many people's minds hadn't been on that for decades, it's a rat race trying to figure out what to do. And so this is why I say, as a melanated family, this is the perfect opportunity. Nobody's going to trip us up. You know, if there's suddenly a groundswell of melanated people across what we call North America, Turtle Island, to be like, you know what, this is important to us. Son, you're not about to sit around on this video game all day. Daughter, you're not about to just run around and sit on this phone all day. You're going I done did my networking. I done met with this farmer 20 miles away. We got something worked out where you're going to go out there 2 days out of the week. He's going to teach you something. And when you come back home, before you get back on this phone, before you think you're going to go dribble that basketball, you're going to explain to me, you're going to write down what it is you learned. It seems kind of hard in the beginning, but once again, the earlier you have this 2-year experience, the earlier you become qualified to jump in any field. Is just being out in the field the only thing to look forward to? Absolutely not. Right now, okay, the popular thing right now is coding. Oh, you know, get our kids into coding, which is cool. It's necessary. But I got a specifically overall unemployment of agriculture and food science is projected to grow 6% from 2019 to 2029, faster than the average of all occupations. Food science, what does food science entail? Once again, how do we make a safer product? How do we make a better quality product? To understand how to do that, you got to understand it from the seed. What did it take to make this in the first place? When I'm going out to Farmer Joe's farm, 20 miles away from home, okay, I know mom, dad got me out here doing this work, but I'm observing because I've seen my community talking about this. I've seen people sharing content and just sharing memes about, black folks need to get back in the ground. I'm going to notice, okay, these GMO seeds, all these things look real pretty, but I notice they don't have seeds in them. Now, is that healthy? Is that safe? And so, okay, I noticed the ones that do have seeds, they don't necessarily look as pretty, but they're a lot tastier. And it's that research mind to where if you have a 15-year-old, 16-year-old teenager observing that, think about the potential, think about the potentiality they have by the time they're in their mid-20s. Let me be honest, I didn't even get into this realm of existence till I was 30. And it was every day I kick myself like, man, why didn't I jump on this earlier? Because like I said, when you think of all of the areas, even when we think about coding, it's very limited. Let's just be honest. I mean, I can learn coding, but I'm gonna end up working for somebody else's corporation who already set up the infrastructure. Agriculture is a frontier that hasn't been conquered, believe it or not. Bill Gates just became the largest farmland owner. Saying that to say, we know he has, speaking on him, we know he has a conqueror mind. I want to buy everything I can. I want to own it. He just now got into it. And so, when we get in this concept of following the money, now how can we as a collective get into this same mindset and not only just get into it investing, but really preparing our children's minds early to see the value and knowing what this land is important for. Knowing, okay, even if I'm going out to this farm 2 times a week over the summer, right? Mom, dad, uncle, coach done set this up where we go out here and help these farmers. But when I come back to my city, okay, I heard them talking about these high tunnels. And I see this farm, I see this lot across the street that used to be a house is disheveled. Man, I'm going to take some of what I learned from Farmer Joe's. And that high tunnel facility had me weeding, doing the water and irrigation, and I'm applied across the street. Seeing is believing. Going back to what you're saying, do we have these operations? Do we have these institutions that teach this? This is where it comes in. We have an opportunity now to create these learning opportunities, and nobody's going to trip us up, family.
So what about the interest? How do we get our people interested? How do we get them to see the value? I mean, that's why we exist. We're here at B1AG Deliberate Podcast, is we're trying to show you the value of this agricultural production, show you all the different opportunities in the industry of agriculture, because it is an industry, and everything that every other industry needs, agriculture needs it as well. If you're a lawyer, farmers need lawyers. If you do marketing, farmers need an agricultural department. They need people to market and and promote everything. we need everything.
Bro, we was chopping it up earlier. I'm glad you said that. So there was a brother that had left on one of the comments that, hey, these athletes have agents that walk them through the league. Soon before you even step foot on a professional basketball court, football field, you have an agent who's going to usher you through the league. And we know typically these aren't melanated agents. Every once in a while, we see with LeBron, when you have melanated agents, your outcomes are different. Do we have agents for farmers? These are the ultimate producers. They're not producing jump shots. They're producing food. They're producing products that people use. And so with the same energy and effort we put into producing athletes, are we doing this into making sure farmers understand investments? Are we doing this to make sure farmers are directly tied to markets and not dependent on other people, allowing them to come in and get less for their products? You say how to get people to buy in. And so once again, we're not throwing shade on anybody. I think the canary has already flown out of the cave and let us know that, okay, there's an earthquake coming. We see food shortages and riots going on around the world right now. And literally every continent on what we call Mother Earth, there are food shortages and the people are rioting about it. It's one thing, this is just a news headline. Like, no, these are real people out in the street. We see that conversations are being had about, hey, man, if you don't get this, you might have to stay home. You might not be able to come in my building. You can't entertain. You can't be entertained. We see that our world is changing before our eyes. Even if you're not into the conscious community, even if you're not into mainstream news, current events, your world around you has changed. If you've never looked at a headline, you've gone in stores and seen that suddenly you have to put a mask on or you can't get in there. You've seen certain words with 19 posted everywhere, marketed to you every day. I mean, wow, we got our some of our biggest rap songs being turned into medicine promotion. So saying that to say, how do we make this a part of our culture? Follow the blueprint of what the faction that's selling us what's going on now. Follow the blueprint. If you feel like rap music, popular songs, popular people, see, we don't give butter biscuits, right? We give that love. We give that black magic. We give that support. Are we incentivizing somebody like Juvenile or BG or Lil Wayne, so to speak, being funny but not? Are we incentivizing them to be able to plow that thing up, right? Instead of the other thing. We understand grassroots effort. Like I said, the coaches right now, and this is just in my modest opinion, coaches, especially of the young males in our community, have some of the largest voice. The coaches and the trap stars, let's just be honest, they have some of the largest voice because they do a way better job of marketing their product than those of us who are wanting to get the concept of, hey, all we need to produce. This lends for opportunity to collaborate. It doesn't mean, we're at a point in time now. I don't have too much time to look at, hey, man, you call God this or the Most High that. I can't rock with you. Hey, man, we got to look at what are the common things within our community, because hunger doesn't know what we look like. Hunger can be targeted to your zip code. Hunger that chemical biochemistry is very real, y'all, and it can be tailored to certain ethnicities. So saying that to say somebody understood that through food science. The point I'm making is, how do you market it? Either it's going to get marketed because we have no choice. It's going to come to our attention because we have no choice, because we wake up in the morning and realize, man, there is a dictatorial energy that is moving me in any which direction, even whether I want to go or not, or we get ahead of it. Right now, I see a lot of threats. I see a lot of dogs backed up in the corner barking loud. But dogs backed in the corner will bite at some point. They haven't bitten yet. It's just a lot of threatening, a lot of jargon. And so what that tells me, and I can only speak for myself, that, man, there's a huge opportunity. When I think about these bills, I hate to keep going back to this Black Farm Color Relief, Socially Disadvantaged Farmer Bill. There was so much more deep intent behind stifling these farmers than just, we tried and it denied. There was so much more strategy behind that, family. And so when we're able to strategize as a community, let me give you a brief story before I talk your head off. I was growing up in Lexington, back in the 90s. This is when I started becoming aware. Like there were no Mexicans in Lexington, Kentucky. I remember it was one Hispanic girl, Nancy, went to Bryan Station High School. I graduated there in '98. To give you a timeline, one. The concept of neighborhoods didn't happen. And I swear, we moved to Atlanta for 5 years. I moved back to Lexington, and I'm talking about there's whole Hispanic communities in Lexington. At this time, I didn't understand politics. I just understand, man, there's a whole new group of people here I didn't know existed. Once again, not throwing shade, just being observant of what works and what's successful. And so you remember, people will make jokes about, oh, it's 10 of them living in an apartment. Oh, it's 5, 6 of them hopping out of a car. Those same families, those same people you saw hopping out of, 5 hopping out of a car now have their own homes. They have their own homes. They're hopping out of better cars than the people I grew up with, right? Everything ain't material. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So as I got older, as I got into agriculture, I'm like, well, how did this happen? How did this happen? And you realize when they're hopping in the work trucks, they're going out to farms. Here in Kentucky, is this horse capital of the world, but also regular farms, livestock farms, produce farms, similar to what they're talking about up in Washington. And I watched over a few decades. I don't know if this is something that they, already planned. I don't know if this is just, divine intervention, but over literally 2 decades, they've gone from, okay, y'all are laughing. For one, we wasn't here. Now we're here, and, it looks like we're in a horrible situation, living on top of each other, in these beat up cars. And literally in 20 years, I'm riding flyer than you in your hood, in your neighborhood. Not only that, 75% of your food comes from my hands. Not only that, guess who's buying up a lot of this land now? I used to work it as, this low paid wage worker. I used to come out here and do the lawn care for it, under somebody else's banner. 20 years later, because we were able to pool our resources, cooperative economics, we were on code. We wasn't switching every time somebody came with a butter biscuit or some sort of incentive to turn my back. Because we're on code, we now have the whole communities. There's multiple Hispanic grocery stores in Lexington. And I mean, they're very smart people here, very smart, melanated people here. And it's like, for the life of me, like, man, why can't we open grocery stores? A barbershop is cool. A few brothers and sisters have come together and created convenience stores, but why haven't we got a grocery store? Not one. Do y'all support each other? Was that the culture that was promoted to you? And I'm answering your question, how do you market? Was that the culture promoted to you to support a melanated person's grocery store? Social marketing. And last thing I'm going to say about this, I do remember a couple of times you go to some of these yards, and I'm talking about 6 o'clock in the morning, there'd be like 20 deep, a bunch of Mexican men, Hispanic men, immigrant men standing around an elder. It will be an elder standing in the center, and I'm just like, that looks weird. I've never seen that type of situation, other than a barbecue or church or maybe school or a sports event, but you don't have like 20, healthy men just sitting around listening to one person. That's hard to see. I would love to see it, and it's not to say it doesn't happen in other places, but man, how often do we see that? But you see them at 6 o'clock in the morning before the sun comes up, dispersing with equipment, going to work on these farms. And like I'm saying, 20 years later, these people now have their own operations. They're now buying the land that they used to do what seemed to be cheap labor on. Point is, when you work together, when you see a value, a lot of them are coming from a place where, hey, I will work for your $15 an hour, because where I was at, I was getting $9 an hour. And so the degree that we can see, past the money, we have to be producers. That is our strength as melanated people. We are producers. We are the original producers. Everything came after us. And so as long as we can sit back and let everything become robots, and when I say robots, what do robots do? They end up taking over, right? And I don't want to put humans in the place of a robot, but a robot is basically, I created you, I positioned you to do my work for me so I don't have to do it. We find ourselves 400 years later, depending on people that have a lot of other ideas for what we should be doing with ourselves.
What I would like to share with the B1AG family before we close out are two quotes. This first quote comes from Booker T. Washington. He says, "No race can prosper until it learns there is as much dignity in tilling a field as in writing a poem." We must recognize that everyone has an important role in this society. You know, we like to put people in categories in a system like, well, these people are better than this or they're below me. Everyone is important. And when we start as a family to understand that there is, like Booker T. Washington says, no race can prosper until it learns there is as much dignity in tilling a field as in writing a poem. When we really realize that and internalize that, we will grow. We'll be able to grow as a culture. And the second quote I would like to share with you is from Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson, one of the forefathers of our country. "Agriculture is our wisest pursuit because it will in the end contribute most to real wealth, good morals, and happiness." It's agriculture, farming, growing your food. You know, importantly, in most, up front is about feeding ourselves and, not being hungry. But you will gain a lot more than a satiated stomach when you participate in agriculture, realizes its importance in our life, and nurture that.
I'm trapping, fam. I feel what y'all brothers are saying, but I'm in the hood, man. I got to work with what I got to work with. What can I do? Hey, you taking trips to get your package. Take some trips outside the city and meet some black farmers and shop with them. The turkey drives on holidays are cool. Maybe you invest in a couple of CSA shares for the elderly in your community. Maybe you take some of the young cats from the city. Hey, man, ride with me on this trip. I'm going to get some food. Because you're going to eat. Everybody has to eat. You think about the money we spend with some of these high-end restaurants. I can tell you farm fresh food is better than anything you're going to get at Ruth's Chris or Jeff Ruby's or anything else. I do hair. Yeah, I ain't got time for all of that. Sister, do you understand the influential power you have in the rest of the world? It perturbs me that all these women around the world want to be like the black women. And I've seen it firsthand, when sisters get their mind on, hey, this is important to me, and I'm going to put my effort into making something pop with this, it's unstoppable. It don't matter where you're at, hair salon, office, doctor's office, school. The degree that you say, hey, this is important, because most men I know follow, what do the women got going on? Where's the women at? As males, okay, man, I'm in the office. I wear suit and tie. I get what you're saying, but what do I have to do with that? Like I said, the farmers need agents. The farmers need agents. Most farmers at the end of the day, there's what Jefferson said, they're very wise beyond what many of us would understand. They're very wise in the nature of production. We're in a capitalist society. Whether we want to, we're in a capitalist society and money talks. And so if you're in a suit and tie, you've elevated yourself to a position where you know how to leverage relationships, leverage resources. And so how do we have a pinpoint codified effort to make sure that the resources, the efforts, the produce, the products that these farmers are able to produce are getting directly to consumers? What about these coaches? Like I said, when I grew up, my coaches, I didn't have a father in the household, so my coaches were like father. What my coaches did, as I'm talking now, I'm thinking about, man, even the way I relate to females. A lot of this was seeing the coaches. Coach Joe is cool. Coach KT is cool. Coach Smoke is cool. This is how he talks. This is how he walks. This is what's important to him. So something as simple as a couple of times out of the year, hey team, I'm gonna bring y'all out here to this farm that I did my research and figured, hey man, this is a black farm out here. and y'all are gonna help this farmer build this fence up. It might be a one-time activity. I might just have y'all come out to this farm and run around. Throw this farmer $100, something like that, just for your space to have y'all run around in conditioning. It would be great if you're doing some work, but just being out in that atmosphere, making these connections, because this black farmer that coach just introduced this group, these teams to, one or two or a few of these players are gonna go back home and say, "Hey, mom, hey, dad, we went to this farm. It was cool. Oh, he had me running, but hey, he had some animals out there. Hey, he had some produce. He had some fruits and vegetables out there. They were good. We had a lunch out there, and half of what the lunch was, he actually made on the farm." And so once again, this is a marathon. It isn't a sprint. But the sooner we can get those that, oh man. Oh man. He said it. And so for our coders, those who want to go into coding, how do we make that happen? How do we create a crypto? You put L on there, man. That's one of the most serious statements I've seen in a while. These are all
things we've been talking about and things we're talking about in the background. Please believe it.
These, and when I say this, man, I don't believe in selling wolf tickets. I wouldn't be on here. I wouldn't be on here if I didn't know 100% unequivocally, like we have a huge opportunity, family, to change a lot of what we see going on in front of us. It's like that bull that realizes, man, with these horns I have, I can knock down any of these fences, because these fences are just held down by wood. My 2,500 pound frame can easily knock this fence up, and I'm out to greener pastures. We have that same potentiality, but we got to see the pasture outside of this fence is valuable. As long as we're fighting for space within this fence, hey, that makes it easier when the truck comes in to take us to the slaughterhouse, family. We got to broaden our perspective. Where do we broaden this perspective? Getting on some of this 1.9 billion acres of land in what we call Turtle Island and around the diaspora. And the sooner we can market that as something that's important to us. And it starts with the adults. It starts with the adults being codified enough to say, you know what, this is right. What can I do to bring attention to this? To where these young people coming after me not only become interested, they become a new consumer base for the new producers. They become a replacement workforce, so a lot of these farmers aren't losing their lands to people like to the Gates and Bezos. They become the competitive force to this automated world.
It's up to us, y'all. It's up to me. It's up to you. It's up to Farmer Brown. It's up to your family. It's up to your children. We must make agriculture more of a part of our life as far as from a participation standpoint. We have to have take a more participatory stance in our survival, in our literal day-to-day survival. We can't consciously just give that responsibility to someone else or think that, okay, I got a couple dollars, so I'm gonna let this money handle these survival things instead of me just doing it myself. The more we can do for ourselves, the better. And here at B1AG, again, we're about getting your own food, producing your own food because of these global food shortages. It is a direct, practical way to make sure that if they continue to get worse, which it looks like they are, it's like a perfect storm for hunger going on right now in the world. Climate change, supply chain disruptions, politics, all these things are making food less available. And not just food less available, the diversity, the different kinds of food that you'll have access to is being effective. So we encourage you to go to healthyblackfood.com, sign up, and learn how to grow your own food. It's a survival skill. It's a God-given right. I say this all the time. It's a God-given right Don't give up your right to learn, to know how to grow your own food and to be able to feed yourself. Learn how to feed yourself. Growing up with my grandfather being a farmer, I didn't realize until I got to college. You know, it really is a blessing and an advantage when your ability to be able to feed yourself is not tied to how much money you have in your pocket. It's very powerful. It's very important. Farmer Brown, it's been a great talk. I hope our people understand, you know, farming is important. There are a lot of opportunities in farming. There are a lot of jobs that are unfilled every year in farming, in agriculture. There's a lot to know. There's a lot you can learn from agriculture and farming. And we need to get our youth involved now for their sake. For their sake. So, Farmer Brown, if you really want to know something, what can the B1AG family do, bro?
If you really want to know something, prints in the mud. Learn how to grow something.
Thank you again for participating in this conversation. Please like and share. Subscribe to the B1AG Daily Bread podcast on YouTube. Just type it into the search bar and you'll find it. You see our logo. Let's make this conversation bigger. Let's grow this platform. Let's grow this conversation. Let's grow some food.
Make it go more viral than the Delta.
Please, more viral than the Delta. And actually, a lot of these foods that we're talking about growing, they actually help you with that. Elderberry, zinc. There are all the remedies, the medicines come from food. Food is medicine. You know, we think about food just as, okay, I'm hungry and I have a taste for this. Food is deeper than that. Food will keep us from getting sick. And when we do feel sick or get sick, food, the ingredients, the nutrients, you know, in food is what's going to sustain us and get us back to good health. And at the end of the day, again, it's all about survival. And good health is pretty much gives you a leg up on survival. So may you have a blessed day. Let your day be filled with love. May you grow today. Every day, let's try to grow. Let's grow in all areas of our life. Let's grow. Plant seeds. We talk about planting literal seeds into the ground to grow food. Let's plant good social seeds. Let's plant seeds of love. You know, let's plant some seeds that will make our future brighter, and make sure again that we'll all have a seat at the grand harvest at the end of the day. Thank you for sitting in. Thank you for participating. B1AG Daily Bread Podcast. We'll see you soon. And we out.